Hello, welcome to Motorcycle Adventuring with Miguelito. I'm here with my Honda CT125 and his name is Little Red Donkey, and today we're going to change out the motorcycle chain. Alright, the first thing you want to do is put the bike up on the center stand. Makes it nice and stable, it's not going anyplace, and put the bike in neutral. Allows you to move the chain around, or spin the wheel and move the chain around. If you want to know what kind of chain it is, go to your manual right there. Page 101, it is a DID 428 HD, so it's a 428 chain, and it's got 108 links. Now that is in the manual, page 101. Now if you want to, if it's not a stock bike, you definitely want to make sure that it still has the 428 chain on it, and it'll say actually on the chain, I'm going to move the camera up in a minute, we'll try to get nice and close, and it'll say 428 on it. I don't know, let me grab a flashlight, it's hard to reach. And yeah, it says DID. Yeah, it's going to say 428 right on it. So you want to replace it with a 428. Now if you wanted to go to a larger chain, let's say a 520 for whatever reasons on this little bike, you'll need to change out the front sprocket, the rear sprocket to 520, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to change it from the standard kind of cheap non-sealed chain to a sealed chain, all 428. What you want to do is you want to spin through. If you can see that link popping up, I'm going to get it closer. I'm going to go ahead and move up on this. But on this particular chain, it's called a clipped link chain. So it's not peened over like all these links are peened. When they manufactured a hammer or a roller comes and it peens over each one of these pins. The pins on this, it's a master link, are actually just inserted through and a clip is inserted on it. Really great to be able to remove the chain and repair it. So I'm going to move up a little bit and see if we can't get a close-up on that when I remove it. Let me show you. It's real simple. Alright, so here's the clip-on master link, and if you'll notice it's rounded on one edge and it's open on the other edge. That's the edge that pushes off. So I like to use a screwdriver, put it right on there, and let's give it a whack, see if it comes off. Just like that. Pops right off, and then you can spin it and it should come right off. And hang it up, there it is. And that's all the clip is, just like that. See if I can hold that so you can see it right there. And then here is the plate, the cover plate, and that'll pop right off as well. It's really not held on too tight. Well, there it is. It's kind of hard to get under there a little bit. Just like that. So that pops off. I made it look harder than it actually is. And there it is. That's just the plate. And then the master link pushes straight out. So just like that. Look at there. Comes right out. So that is what a clip-on master link looks like. So you've got the pin side with a plate. You got the other plate right there, and then you've got the clip. That's why they call it clip-on, that clips on there and holds it. So to take the chain off, just nice and gentle. It's nasty dirty, so just and it's pretty new. I think it only has about 200-300 miles on it. Just comes off just like that. Now let's go cut up the other chain and fit it. Alright, so I moved the old chain up onto the bench here so we can get a better look at it. Hopefully you can see it. I tried to zoom in. First of all, it's 108 link chain. So what's a link? Is each one of these a link? No, each pin is a link. So if you count them, including these two, you're going to come up with 108. Not a problem. Really easy to do. So what we want to do is, I'm going to keep the 108 link length because I want to be able to add a 13-inch sprocket to the front without having to put on a new chain. And actually the 13-inch sprocket makes the chain a little bit longer, basically, so I'll have to adjust the rear wheel and sprocket back just incrementally. But I'll be able to switch between the 13 and the 14-inch OEM or the stock front sprocket, so I can do some dirt, or if I'm carrying a heavy load like when I'm adventure riding on this. Anyway, so let's get started. I'm going to cut in and out of frames here, so bear with me. This is the old one. We just counted up 108, or I did, and like I said, it's each pin, so one pin is missing, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just keep going. You're going to come up with 108. All right, so I'm going to keep this over there, and this is the chain I decided to go with. It is a DID, which is exactly the same make as the other one, 428. We talked about that, and it's a VX, which means it is a sealed chain with an basically, it's not an O-ring, it's kind of a ring that has little striations and it makes it look like an X. I don't know if it's any better or any worse. They're still out on that, I guess. But this is good for displacements between 80cc and 400cc. My bike's a 125, so this chain, unless I do something catastrophic or unless something horrible happens to the chain, is going to last for the rest of that bike's life, and I won't there's not going to be any chain stretch in this at all, ever. It's just not going to happen. It's a really good chain. I've been using DID VX chains on much bigger bikes, and once I put the DID VX on, I've never had to mess with the chain at all, other than just the routine maintenance. We'll talk about that in a minute. So let's open this booger up. So we have chain right here, and the clip-on master link right there, which we don't need to get to that. If you notice some of the parts, they're all there. The only thing that they add to this are the little O-rings, and I'll show you how to put those on later on. So here's the chain. This is like 120 links, I believe. I'm going to go ahead and count them out, and I'm going to show you how to measure and cut. All right, so here we are. I counted up, and the link I need to cut, or actually the pin I need to remove, is right there. And that'll add up to 108. And I should have said, generally speaking, when you buy a chain, you can order it to how many links. I could have told the company, hey, I wanted 100, 108 links, 111 links, 105 links, and they would have already cut it. It would look just like this end here, already removed. But I wanted to kind of do the demonstration, and besides which, I wasn't sure what I was going to do with the chain yet. So now that I've got that counted, and I've counted it twice, I would suggest doing that. I wiped it off really clean, the link. And I'm going to put a line all around this booger, just like that. That's the one that has to come out. So no matter what, I shouldn't screw up on that, although I always surprise myself. There's a couple of ways you can remove this link. There's multiple ways. The way I'm going to use it was the Dremel tool. If you don't have a Dremel tool, you could use a file. And it doesn't matter if you damage this plate. It's going to go away anyway. What matters is we don't damage what's beneath the plate, to the actual pivot underneath. So you can actually put this in a vise, and these are really hardened pins, but you can just go to town. And just exactly like that. And it's already scoring it really well anyway. File away of that till you get it flush, or basically at the same surface level as the plate right here. But I'm going to cut it with a Dremel tool. Here we go. All right, that's it. That's what it'll look like. You're not going to be able to see, but that's flush. And there's a couple of ways now you can pound the pin out. And I say pound because sometimes it does stick. You can use the good old-fashioned way, probably a bigger hammer, and a punch. You put it right where the pin is, and you can't see this, but I can right where the pin is, and you're going to punch it out. Well, make sure underneath when you do that, there's space. So you can take a piece of board like this. This is polyplastic. Drill a hole in there, center the pin over the hole, and punch right through. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try my trusty old Motion Pro tool. And if you see, chain breaker tool, if you see there's a hole right there. So, and then there's a little pin right here. You don't have to use one of these. Like I said, you can go all manual on it. You can file it. It'll take you about 10 minutes maybe. And you can do exactly what I said. So you don't need all these specialty tools. I'm going to use my specialty tool. And I can feel it. This hole indexes on the other side on this pin. I can actually feel it. Sits right in there. And then I'm going to screw this all the way down on top of the pin. Nice and tight. So let's see on camera if I can push the pin. You'll see it pop right through there. All right. And there's the pin. And the magic chain breaking. There it is. And there actually is one of the little X rings. That's it. There should be one on each side. Now if you notice, I don't know if you can, there's no damage at all to that. The heat didn't transfer through. Nothing was damaged, obviously, other than the pin and then the plate. And I'm not reusing those anyway. This plate right here is damaged. I'm not going to use that. If I needed a section of chain, in other words, I wanted to add some to this, so if I wanted the bigger rear sprocket and I needed 4 or 5 links, I'll use this piece and put 2 masters on. Now a lot of people frown on that. I would too if it was my bigger bike or race bike. This is a little 8.5 horsepower bike. You can use 5 or 10 master links if you want. They're not going to pop off. The master links nowadays are really, really good. Now I'm going to save those even though they're probably heat damaged, just in case I lose one. But I've got extras in here. So that's all there is to breaking a chain. Now let's put it on the bike. In order to put the chain, you don't need to remove the front sprocket cover to take chain off. But honestly, and you really don't need to remove it, put the chain back on. But really, it saves gray hairs. Pull the front sprocket cover. It's real easy to do. Long skinny socket. It's an 8 mil or a 5/16, believe it or not. This goes in. Guess what? I already removed it. But there's one up top here. That comes out. And there's one on the bottom. And that's about it. And it will kind of finagle itself. Let me get rid of this so it doesn't. It'll kind of finagle itself. You don't have to force it again. It's plastic. So just kind of be careful. And it will eventually release its hold. That's all there is to it. That easy. Don't put plastics down face down. Put them down just like that. What I've done, I've laid out my chain right here on a nice clean surface. I got one of the bath towels, so hopefully my wife doesn't find out I've done that. And here's the chain. You can see these, any O-ring, any ringed chain, it's going to be a little bit stiffer. Let me talk about that. It's as ridiculous as it sounds. There's quote-unquote controversy over that because the stock chain doesn't have any resistance in there, okay, because it's just metal to metal. This is metal to silicone, and so it hangs up just a little bit. And they say, oh, that robs horsepower, it makes issues. It's not going to be an issue on this. Maybe if you're a racer and you're trying to gain that last, 1%, that might be an issue. On this bike, it's just not going to be an issue. And the benefits far outweigh, as far as maintenance and longevity, far outweigh any possible loss you'd have. Anyway, the way I like to put this in, and it's first time on this bike, so I'm going to feed it up through. There's a chain slider right there. And over here, onto the front sprocket. Again, that booger's in neutral. And just keep it feeding around. And now what I'm going to do is feed it up over the back sprocket. You can just start it right here. Sorry, my fat mug's in the way. And just kind of slowly turn it. Nice and slow. It's going to get to a point. Voila. Now we have to put the chain together with the master link. So I'm going to reposition the camera because that's a little bit technical but really easy as well. All right, I'm back at the bench. I already installed the chain and the master on the bike. Unfortunately, my camera doesn't really zoom that good. Well, it's on the bike. You really couldn't get a close-up. So I decided to do another chain, which is just an old 520 chain I have, and a 520. It's the same process, a 520 clip master link. So again, this would be our chain. That's how you would start with it. And the master link comes with a back plate with 2 pins already pressed in. It comes with the clip, it comes with the front plate, and it comes with 4 O-rings and, most important, grease, a whole thing of grease. You can see I already used this. I greased the heck out of these, put grease in there, and I'll explain that in a minute. First thing you want to do is you want to apply grease around the base of the pin on this back plate and on the pin itself. I've done that. I also put lots of grease on both sides of the O-ring. So you put the O-ring on, just like that. Now, you put more grease all over the O-ring on top, and as much as you can put on the pin. And I also put grease on both sides of this pivot right here. So up on top here, up on top here, and on the bottom the same. And I fill as much grease as I can inside the hole. There's actually plenty of grease in here. I'm not going to use the rest of it. I'm just using this for demonstration. So you put as much grease as you can. Now, when you put this on there, it's going to push the grease out, and that's fine. Okay, but remember, there's grease on the pin, so it goes in. Okay. Now we've got the pins protruding up over that. So now we put more. Make sure we have more grease on there. Even though we've already greased it, you want lots of grease on these, particularly inside. On the outside, it's not so critical, but on the inside pin, that's the last chance you're going to get to it. You want to make sure it's just got as much of the grease as possible in there. So I've got grease on here as well. Now, here's the front plate. If you notice, there's writing on the front plate. On the back plate, there is none. So the way I install it is always so I can see the writing on the front plate. And again, you would put grease all over this front plate. There's some already on the O-rings there, and you just simply set it down. Now, you can kind of see it wants to go on, but it just won't quite get there. There's a couple of ways you can deal with that because it is so, it's a press fit, so it really wants to hold on there. I can use my press tool again. This is the one that I use to drive the pin out. So the way the press works, I go to the press, simply screws down on top of it. Now what you have to do is be extremely careful with this press because you can apply way too much pressure and it squishes the O-ring out, and you have to relieve the pressure, means you have to take it back apart. So I'm just going to put it on there, and it's tight right there. That's all I did. So I'm going to move it to the next one. Just a little bit more. That did it. Faux sure. Okay, there it is. Now the last thing to do, I can actually feel under my fingernail. You can see that the little indents are exposed. The last thing we do is put the clip on. Now, if the rotation of the chain is this direction, that's the direction, and there's no upper right side or front back side on this clip. The direction, you want the rounded part in the direction of the rotation. So we're going to pretend for a minute that it's that way. And if you look on this, it's wider right here than it is right here. So we're going to start it right a little bit, and we're going to get right to there. Now let's see if I can do this on the first try. What I use is a pair of these, and I'm going to put one of the sides right here and the other one on the back of this, and I should be able to squeeze it. There it went right on. All right, folks, here we are. This is the finished product. Because I didn't lengthen the chain, I put it on. I didn't have to remove or loosen up the rear wheel at all. I put the master link on the chain as it was on the bike. You've already seen that I showed a demonstration. Hopefully that came out well, and it seems to work just fine. There it is. It just kind of playing with it a little bit. It's definitely a more stout chain. There's the master, by the way. I talked earlier about putting silicone on there if it was a desert bike or a high horsepower bike. Actually something that goes in the mud, snow, like that. I don't plan that for Little Red Donkey. Little Red Donkey is very stubborn, and he says he doesn't want to do snow, doesn't really want to do mud. He'll do a little bit of sand, that's about it. I want to show you something. That's kind of a clean towel. Nothing on there. What I've done already, I've sprayed a wax base protectant or lubricant, if you want to look like that, on the entire chain. I do that with each one of my chains. I don't oil my chains, especially sealed chains. I know some people do, and if that works for them, that's fantastic. Doesn't work for me, so I go ahead and use a wax-based lubricant or protectant. It works just fine. Anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to get a hold of me, and I'll answer them if I can. Thank you.